So on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, I wrote a column. That's a Sunday. And the column said that on network TV, ABC, CBS, NBC, there are literally no conservative or traditional voices heard. They've been banned. We're talking late night TV, early morning TV. We're talking the newscasts. You will not find a conservative voice on those three networks. And we told you in the column it's because of the management. Okay, they don't hire people. And they won't even book a guest most of the time, particularly if the guest supports Donald Trump. So 6 days later, after that column, all right, NBC announces it has hired Ronna McDaniel, the former head of the Republican National Committee, as a pundit. You're going to pay her to be on their air. Okay, almost immediately, there was a revolt among NBC News personnel objecting to the hiring of Ms. McDaniel. And almost immediately, the president of NBC News, Rebecca Blumenstein, panicked and folded and said, Ms. McDaniel will never appear on MSNBC, just on NBC News. That did not calm the liberal employees of NBC News. So yesterday, Ms. McDaniel showed up on Meet the Press and was immediately grilled by Kristen Welker. Go.
Did you not have a responsibility as the RNC chair to say before January 6th, the election is not rigged, that Donald Trump lost, given that there were audits, given that there were more than 60 court cases that occurred all across the country, and that Donald Trump lost?
The reality is Joe Biden won. He's the president. He's the legitimate president. I have always said, and I continue to say, there were issues in 2020. I believe that both can be true.
Okay, so the crux of the matter is that Ms. McDaniel made a mistake by trying to influence people not to certify the electoral votes in January of 2021. That was a mistake on her part. Should she be canceled forever because of that? Banished because of that? According to the NBC personnel, yes. So she made a mistake. She now admits that Joe Biden won the election, but no. You make that mistake, you're gone. Canceled, out, banished. Okay, according to this people at NBC. But interestingly enough, if you are on the left side of the spectrum and make a mistake, no, that's okay. That's all right. So in a sane world, Ms. McDaniel admits her mistake, but you can have an opinion that the election of 2020 was flawed. You can't say it is fact, which is what she did and others did. You say it is fact, that's wrong, and the huge judgment against the Fox News channel proves that. You can say, it's my opinion that there was something wrong in that election. Look, Mark Zuckerberg, pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into a few American counties. It's never been explained where that money went. Yeah, I got some questions about that. Because I hold that opinion, should I be canceled? Yes, absolutely, on the part of the networks. So this was pretty bold. Chuck Todd, who was fired as Meet the Press anchor because of low ratings and his sneering condescension toward anybody who wasn't agreeing with him, he went on right after Ronna McDaniel with Kristen Welker. Roll the tape.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation, because I don't know what to believe. She is now a paid contributor by NBC News. And so when NBC made the decision to give her NBC News' credibility, you got to ask yourself, what does she bring NBC News? And when we make deals like this, and I've been at this company a long time, you're doing it for access to audience.
Well, that's true. NBC is hemorrhaging viewers. I mean, MSNBC, they don't even get 2 million people in prime time to watch it. It's insane. Like 120 million homes with TV in America, they can't even get 2 million. That's how bad it is. So, yeah, they'd like to get some Republicans to watch them. That's why they hired. It's like, and plus, guys like me are hammering them for being 100% liberal network. All right, so they go, oh, no, we have Ronna McDaniel. All right. But Ms. Welker's participation in all this is fascinating as well. Let's go back to the debate, the GOP debate, on November 8th, 2023, where Kristen Welker was one of the moderators. Roll it.
Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation?
There you go. Welker didn't have any answer for that. NBC News embraced the phony Russian collusion thing at a level that has never been seen because of MSNBC. Every night, they convicted the Trump organization, the Trump campaign, Donald Trump himself, of colluding with Russia. Every blanking night they did it. So they should cancel themselves, right? Right? Didn't they push a false narrative? Of course they did. So if Ronna McDaniel pushed a false narrative, which she did, I'm not making an equivalency here. I'm just showing hypocrisy. And it really is, really is. So I wrote a message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com about this thing to clarify it in very specific ways. But you get it. NBC is in serious trouble. When the inmates, to use a cliche, run the asylum, you've lost control. Okay? You really have. And it didn't last very long, less than a week. We went over it yesterday in great detail. If you missed it, it's on BillO'Reilly.com. You see the clips. News Nation, I talked about it in depth last night with Leland Vittert. Basically, Ms. McDaniel was attacked by personnel at MSNBC and NBC News, and now the bosses over there have folded and are firing her. Why did you hire her in the first place? You had to know this was going to happen. You don't have a news agency over there at NBC. It's an ideological agency. That's what it is. What a shame. And tomorrow I got Bernie Goldberg. I'm going to talk about it because both Goldberg and I were in the network apparatus when NBC was at its peak. And boy, the deterioration.
And principled objections to our company putting on the payroll someone who hasn't just attacked us as journalists, but someone who is part of an ongoing project to get rid of our system of government.
Well, number one, madam, you're not a journalist. You never covered a story that I know of. You're a liberal pundit. That's who you are. And getting rid of our system of government, it's a little overstatement, you know? And Rachel Maddow was one of the major strident voices pushing the bogus Russian collusion charges against Trump and his operation. It's what she said on March 9th, 2017. Go.
Dramatic news tonight from Politico.com. This incident that happened last summer on the Trump campaign, it was one of the first direct signs that we had that something strange was up in the Trump campaign when it came to the issue of Russia.
And of course, nothing strange was up because nothing happened, according to the special counsel. Did she apologize for that? Why is she still working? If Ronna McDaniel made a mistake, and she did, in trying to stop the electoral vote count of the 2020 election, if she made that mistake, and I believe Ms. McDaniel has said time and again it was a mistake that she made. She's owned up to it. Well, Maddow's owned up to what she did, and the whole crew at NBC did it for 2 years. They convicted Trump of Russian collusion. That's what they did. Everybody knows it. And even now, they're still peddling that. Roll it.
Because it feels like we went from, the Russia hoax to damn right we're colluding and it's not illegal. We'll prove it. I mean, it went from like, I didn't do it to, yeah, I did it and watch us do it again.
No, nobody did anything. That was in February that woman said that. It's just crazy, really crazy over there. Anyway, our reporting has been stellar on this. Thank you. I know I'm bragging, but we nailed it every step of the way. The hypocrisy, the foolishness, what the NBC News operation is now, 100%. And we have it all on BillO'Reilly.com document. So Ronna McDaniel, I saw some of your coverage on. I mean, this is ridiculous. But the bigger story, and I talked about this for an hour with Sean Hannity on his radio program today, we have it on BillO'Reilly.com, is that NBC News will never come back from this. It's like CNN. Remember when CNN was a trusted source of news information? All over the world. That's gone. It's the lowest rated news agency on television now, and they destroyed themselves by hating Trump. NBC now is going to follow CNN. Or am I wrong?
I think you're wrong in this regard. There's a big difference, a very big difference, between whether NBC should be hurt by what it did to Ronna McDaniel, which was horrible, and whether they actually will be hurt. Liberals, progressives, and other Democrats aren't angry over what NBC did to Miss McDaniels. They're not angry at all. They're happy about what NBC did to her. They're cheering about it. So, of course, NBC should be tarnished by what it did, by publicly humiliating her. Of course, they should be damaged and tarnished and all that, but I don't think they will be.
Well, wait a minute, though. You're talking about MSNBC, which programs exclusively for far-left loons. That's all they do. NBC News, this is Lester Holt, the Today Show, okay?
Right.
Dateline. They're going to be tarnished with the same brush here because the same executives that run that assassinated, figuratively speaking, Ronna McDaniel. You haven't heard a word from Lester Holt or the women on the Today Show.
And you're not going to.
Right. Believe me, you're not going to. But anybody consuming information has to have some sort of awareness, and NBC is just going to be linked now because their own executives did this. There's no delineation between MSNBC and NBC. NBC News executives did it. Now it's going to be, they're the left-wing network, and so you're writing off at least 50% of the country in potential viewership.
I think you're wrong about that, too, respectfully, Bill. And I think you're wrong because we're news junkies. We follow the news because that's what we do. I think ordinary Americans, and I use the word ordinary in the best sense, not in some pejorative sense, ordinary Americans don't think what Lester Holt does has anything to do with what Rachel Maddow does or what Scarborough does or any of the others. I think ordinary Americans who go about their lives, who aren't political junkies or news junkies, watch Lester Holt because they think he's a good anchor, they like him, whatever it is.
I disagree.
But I don't think there's any association.
And when George Stephanopoulos at ABC attacked Nancy Mace with the rape thing, there was big trouble at ABC News because of that. Big trouble. Because ABC realized that people watching that interview were going to say, I've had enough. And I'm telling you, and we'll track it every month. NBC is going to be hurt by this. And they're never going to come back as a news agency for all Americans. Now, I want to get on. Go ahead.
Let me say, I hope you're right. I genuinely.
I'm very rarely wrong, as you know. Okay, so now the bigger story is the blackball. So on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, I wrote a column, and I think you read it, that this has been going on since 2016. that anybody who supported Donald Trump or said anything good about Trump at all was banished from not only news coverage on the networks, but entertainment coverage, late night coverage, morning coverage, whatever it may be. You were not welcome. This was not an accident. This was by design. And it's exactly the same thing that happened in the 1950s with the communist witch hunt. And interestingly enough, CAA, the big talent agency in Hollywood, dropped Ronna McDaniel as a client. Why? Why would they drop her? She didn't do anything. So they took her on. She signed a 2-year deal for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They took their commission. And then as soon as she got thrown overboard by NBC, CAA drops her. You know why they did it? I'm going to ask you. Do you know why they did it?
I do. It may not be why you think, but you go first.
No, you go first.
I think there's a broader issue than Ronna McDaniel. It's about how liberals have forgotten how to be liberal. These liberals you're talking about aren't liberals in the old sense of the word, meaning open-minded. We respect your right to say things even if we disagree with them. These are illiberal liberals.
But then why would they take her on in the first place? Okay, they knew that she was former head of the Republican National Committee, and she sided with Trump in the election stuff. They knew it. They took her on anyway, and as soon as she gets in trouble, they dump her. Here's why they dumped her. Because a lot of their clientele, about 90% of it, is exactly the category that you described. They're happy about it. And CAA didn't want to continue to represent her if they're going to lose clients, left-wing movie stars, TV people. So they said, get rid of Ronna. That's why they did it.
Yeah, I don't want to go overboard with an exaggeration here, but these are Stalinist liberals.
You bet. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly, and not only Stalin, but Mao, Hitler, the same playbook. All right,
it's one thing if conservatives did that, because conservatives never had the reputation of, we're open-minded. Liberals brag about that BS. Liberals are so damn sanctimonious that they brag about how open-minded they are. And then we have all this. This makes them look like idiots.
Blackballing.
With an open mind.
Look, the cancel culture is solely in the left-wing precincts. That's who invented it.